is in regards to, for those that haven't seen the movie, go watch it. Subscribe to the Babylon Bee on X. It's one of the ways you can watch it. And Kyle, I'll give you an opportunity to plug it later towards the end of however you want to. But please go watch the movie. It was hilarious. You guys did a great job from it was very dry comedy-esque and a lot of breaking the fourth wall, looking at the camera. It was just a good production. But I had to wonder the whole time, in the film, you took obviously the satirical approach. You were from like kind of the left saying this is awful and we're going to prove that it's awful. And then you guys interviewed people that were at January 6th, that had been put in jail, that had been targeted by the FBI. My first question to you about the movie is this, and I don't know how much you can or can't answer me. Were you guys concerned jumping into this about getting in trouble from the government? Like January 6th from the left, like there were people like, I mean, the lectern guy, for example, and a couple of the other people that you interviewed that legit got jail time or solitary. Were you guys concerned jumping into this world that it was going to come actually impact you guys on a personal and familial level?
I mean, not necessarily that like making this movie in any way would get us in trouble. I mean, it definitely puts you in a certain camp. like, it definitely makes a statement where people are like, oh, you're one of those guys, even though I think the movie isn't trying to say that January 6th was a great day or that we support it necessarily. Like that we supported all the riots and all the crazy stuff. Like, clearly, I think the message of the movie is January 6th was a bad day, but it wasn't the worst day, which is the line that, that progressives and journalists have used for years, is that this was as bad as 9/11 and all this crazy stuff, so that's pretty squarely what it's targeted at. But on another level, like it already did, January 6th prosecution already did affect the Babylon Bee. Siaka Massaquoi is one of our actors, and he's in the movie and he got raided by the FBI and arrested and separated from his wife on the tarmac, his pregnant wife on the tarmac, 3 years after the event because he's such a threat to democracy. And that is already hitting close to home for us, when you have people like that. And yeah, he's not like an employee of the Babylon Bee, but he was one of our actors in one of our most popular series and a good friend of all of ours. So there's a sense in which we're already that one level of separation away from January 6th prosecutions where it was like, oh, well, we're going all in, I guess.
Did you have to worry about when you had, because you had like I noticed the Shaman guy with the buffalo horns, that I know that guy was all over the news. And I know in the segment, he didn't say anything in the movie. It was funny where Travis sat down, they ate steak. I think the guy said like, let's steak or something. And then it was a quiet interview and then Travis left. Was that, and I don't know if you can share, these are just questions I had watching the film. Was that just something because he wasn't allowed to say anything or you guys didn't want him to say anything at that point? Because it was a funny sequence, but I was just like, man, I wonder if there's more to this scene that he was willing to come on, but he didn't want to say anything or wasn't allowed to say anything else.
A combination, but it was a decision we made in editing. It wasn't actually written in the script like that. We had a couple versions. We had a version where, there was a longer interview similar to the one we did with Siaka or the one we did with Lecturer Guy, where Buffalo Guy is like, actually just, we're drilling him on all this stuff. And he's doing the same thing where he's like, oh, actually, I just walked in and, but for a couple of reasons, I think one of which it was just a little repetitive in that you had kind of already seen that angle with the other two interviews. I always love that actually came a lot from Monty Python, where in Monty Python, there's that, in the Holy Grail, there's that running subplot where the documentarian is like following around where Arthur went, and then he gets randomly killed. And then the police come in to investigate, and it has nothing to do with the rest of the movie, and it keeps randomly cutting to these long scenes where where it's just quiet, and the police are like slowly walking into the scene, like taking notes, looking at a crime scene, and they're like they're basically tailing Arthur and his knights. And then at the end of the movie, that's the big subversion. And Monty Python, spoiler alert, they're charging in to get the Grail, and the cops show up and arrest them all. And that's just So I love those like random, like you have these action scenes and then it's like a quiet cutaway to something. And so that turned into Travis's like searching for Buffalo guy in the wilderness. And so we were trying to figure out a way to like really end it in a strong way. And we just decided to do, and this is again, this is the comedian who is willing to be an idiot and do something that a lot of people won't get. And I'm sure we have a lot of confused boomers who watch the movie and they're like, why didn't he say anything? But it was like kind of the Napoleon Dynamite, like, okay, bye.
Well, it was hilarious. Like on all the scenes with Travis were kind of like, I feel like 5 seconds longer than you wanted them to be. And I feel like that was intentional because you're watching him like walk across this river and going rock by rock. And then he slips and falls in and he's just like, and it's just like one frame, just watching him do this slowly. And it's almost painful comedy because you're watching this like laughing, but also like, this is a unique style choice.
And we cut those scenes down because I wanted them to be even longer. Because there's this principle in comedy where like there's an uncanny valley in editing for that stuff. Because if it's short, then it's like, okay, it was just supposed to be short. And then if it's you're like, oh, that went on a little too. Then if it's a little too long and then a little too much longer, it circles back into being funny again. Like,
yes,
like everybody's kind of laughing. Oh, it's still going. Oh, it's still going, and it kind of signals to the viewer like, oh, obviously this was intentional, So I love those long scenes. I think we cut like 2 or 3 of them just for length in the movie. But I would watch a whole movie of Travis just wandering through the wilderness.
Yeah, it was incredibly done. Was this your guys' first documentary style movie that the Bee produced?
Yeah, this kind of came out of a few different places. Like we were looking to do a bigger film, a bigger TV show type thing, and we wanted to get our feet wet. And so we decided we'd just make one ourselves. Like obviously we talked to a lot of people in the film industry that want to do something with us, but it's like, you know what? For this to be like authentically Babylon Bee, we just need to do it ourselves. And so that's where it came from.